Hey everyone, blessings and welcome. We have a very interesting topic for this video. In this video, we're going to be discussing the things that pollute our soul. But before we jump into this topic, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Share this video, like this video, and also I'm very interested in what you think about this topic. So please feel free to drop a comment. If you feel so compelled to do so. I really like to keep the discussion going, interested in what you may think about this topic. As always, I really do appreciate everyone's support. Thank you once again. It does mean a lot when my subscribers come back and when you do share my videos, and I appreciate it a whole lot. So thank you. So let us get into our topic at hand, and that is the things that pollute your soul. Now, I have a number of videos on this channel that basically breaks down body, soul, and spirit. I actually did a video, I think maybe last year, on soul ties, and I actually do the whole breakdown of what the soul is and what soul ties are. Please check that video out. I'm actually going to link that video to this one if you want a deeper understanding of what the soul is and what soul ties are. If you have an interest in that, check it out as a good reference in addition to this video. So we're going to get into it in this one. It's going to be interesting. So the things that pollute our soul. But before we get there, we have to just do a summary. Although I've done videos on them, I'm just going to do a summary what body, soul, and spirit is and what that means. So first, let's talk about the body. The body is, first and foremost, we are human beings. We are spirit. We are spirit. We were made in the image of God. We are spirit, right? That's first and foremost. The physical body is spirit manifest in a material world. So it's spirit as a manifestation in the physical, right? So that's what the body is. It's spirit on a physical plane, right? In a house, in flesh, in bone, right? The spirit that's inside of the spirit that's inside of us, right? That is our actual life force. It's the divine quality that's inside of us. That's the God inside of us. That's the part of us that allows us to connect to God. The spirit is actually the animation of who we are. Is the breath of God inside of us. Is the thing that makes us alive, right? So it's the life in us. It's the life force in us. So that's what the spirit is. So it's a life force in us. It's a thing that animates us. It's the breath in our body, and it's the divine part of us, and it's the part of us that allows us to connect to God, right? So that's what the spirit within the spirit is. So that's the spirit, the physical body. Now let's get to the soul. So the soul is us. It's the essence of us. It's our unique selves. It's our personality, right? It's our emotion. It's the way we think. It's our intellect. It's our will, our desires, right? It's our reasoning. It's who we are, and what makes us unique in this world, and what makes us unique in humanity, right? So that's what the soul is that unique part of what sets us apart from everyone else, right? And it houses emotions, intellect, will, and the mind and everything like that, right? And our desires and so on and so forth. So that's what the soul is. So the soul acts as a barrier between the spirit and the physical body. So it's like right there in the middle, but everything is connected and everything is one. None of this stuff is separated. It all works together as one to make us a complete human being in our existence on this planet, right? And the soul also is the everlasting part of us. It's the thing inside of us, and it's the thing that's going to live forever and ever. This body is going to pass away, it's going to die, it's going to go with the rest of the material world and eventually, be no more and turn back to the dust, right? But that spirit and that soul is going to remain with us. The soul is just going to be who we are, and it's the everlasting part. So just wanted to get that out the way before we get into what pollutes the soul. So if the soul acts as a barrier, that means that we have to be careful as to what we allow in, and we really have to. It's important for us to monitor our inner lives, right? So because if the soul is polluted and the soul gets sick, then we'll get sick. And that actually has an impact on us spiritually. Like I said, everything is tied together, and it has an impact on us physically, because if your mind is not well, and let me get back to the mind. So I didn't mention this earlier. So all of these things, the house for the soul is actually in the organ of the brain. So I just wanted to bring that back. And this is why everything is connected and why everything is whole and why everything is one, right? So all of these things are housed mostly in the brain, right? So we have to take care of our brain. We have to take care of that organ, right? So that's basically where the soul sits, and also not just the brain, but also in the heart, in the gut. But I'm not going to get too deep into that, but we'll get deeper maybe in another video. And also, I just want to bring out something that I find interesting in that connection that I have made just in my studies and thinking. If we were to also connect a part of that immaterial part of us, that's a connection to our physical part of us, our body, I would say for the spirit part of who we are, the divine part of who we are, the thing that works in our body that's closestly connected to that will be the blood, right? So the spirit and the blood is closely connected. So the blood flows through everything, through every part. So if there's no blood flowing through you and you bleed out and there's no blood, there's no life in you. So the blood inside of our bodies is our life force. And if you want to know anything that's happening in your body, what's going on, get a blood test. The blood will tell you everything you need to know about a person. So the blood is our life force, is our history, is everything about us, everything you need to know. It's all in the blood, and we can connect that back to the spirit. I'm getting a little deep, but I just thought that was interesting, and I'll bring that up. So let's get back to the soul and what pollutes the soul. So if the soul acts as a barrier between the spirit and the body, we have to be very, very careful, as is what I said earlier, and be careful about what we take in and what we put in, because it does have an impact. So we're going to go through the 7 things right now. So the first thing that pollutes the soul is sin. Yes, it's sin. When we violate divine law, when we violate moral and ethical codes, laws, there is a price to pay for that. And we pay for it in our soul, and we pay for it also in our spirit too, because the two are connected, right? And oftentimes in our body too, in our flesh too. So it's very important that, no person is without sin. We all miss the mark at times. We all fail, and morally, ethically sometimes, and we all do sin. But here's the key: we can't make a lifestyle out of that stuff, right? We'll make a mistake, we'll have a misstep, maybe some moral failing somewhere, but we can't make it a habit of lying, of cheating, of stealing, of coveting, of being jealous, of so we can't make a habit. So when we find that these failings are becoming part of a pattern and of a lifestyle, that is the thing that will pollute the soul. That is the thing that will corrupt and contaminate the soul, when we allow sin to take up residence and we make a habit of certain sins. This is why lifestyle is important. And this is why God has certain laws in the Bible, is not to make life less fun. It's because the sin is a pathway and a road to death, right? So God tells us not to do certain things. He tells us not to cheat, steal, and to kill, because these are the things that do lead us to destruction. And these are the things that do lead to loss of life and loss of quality of life. So he tells us not to do these things in his word. And it's also good for us to have our own moral and ethical code to live by, so we can stay on the straight and narrow, like things that are non-negotiable that you shouldn't be doing, that keep you on a good track, and then to keep your soul in good shape. So sin has a very negative impact when we make a lifestyle and we make a pattern and we make a habit of certain things. What's going to happen we allow sin to creep in and to take over, it ends up polluting us and it ends up leading us astray. So sin is number one. I'll put that at the top of the list. Now we are going to sin. We're all going to, fall short, as they say in the church, of the glory of God. But when that happens, we have to repent. We have the grace. If you've accepted Jesus Christ as your Savior, you have grace. And forgiveness is yours, and salvation is yours. And it's not so you can ask for forgiveness and return back to it. It's ask God for forgiveness and Him to give you the power to stay away from that thing that you've fallen. I won't say fallen into, but that you've done. So you don't want to keep doing it over and over again. So you do have forgiveness. You do have grace if you have God in your life, and He will forgive you, but you don't want to make a habit of these things. So number one is sin. That's the number one thing that's going to pollute your soul. Number two, what we see, what comes through the eye gate and what comes through the ear gate, that has an impact on our inner life and on our soul. So the things that we watch, the things that we listen to, all has an impact. So if it's very low vibration things that we're listening to and that we're watching on TV, very violent things, hypersexualized things, things where, people are just being corrupt left and right, things where, it can even be down to the news, when you wake up in the morning, are you turning on the news, or are you looking at your phone and looking at your news feed on your phone? That has an impact. If you keep doing it over and over again, that can have an impact on your soul, and it can become a pollutant, right? And it can contaminate you because it could change your disposition. It could change the way you feel toward the negative if you're constantly taking in bad news, if you're constantly taking in violence, and that thing can trigger some things within you and even open up some pathways spiritually for evil spirits to come in if you're not careful, right? And, and it goes back to addictions, people who have porn addictions, right? Over and over again, it becomes unhealthy when you're feeding your soul and your spirit those things over and over again. So we have to be careful as to what we watch and what we hear on a continual basis, and monitor that stuff, because it can have a negative impact. And sometimes we're walking around and we're wondering why, we're like in a bad mood or a funky mood, or something has shifted or something has changed. I guarantee you, if you go back to you think about what you've been reading, what you've been listening to, what you've been listening to podcasts on YouTube. Now there's some channels on YouTube that are fantastic, that have been a blessing to my life, but there's a lot of trash and things that can really contaminate you and have you thinking a certain way, because not everyone creates content and writes things and put things out of media with good intent, right? So we have to be very cognizant and cautious as to what we see, and expose ourselves to what we hear, what we are reading, what we're listening to. It can even be the music. So if you're listening to low vibrational music, and the music is violent, hypersexual, negative, talking bad about people, gossip, whatever it is in the music that's off. And like I said, sometimes there are wonderful artists out there who are a blessing, who are super talented, who are really giving a great contribution to the arts. And then there are other artists that they're creating things with the wrong heart and with not great intentions, and they're putting things and they're inviting spirits into the music. Yes, people do that. They'll put things. I've listened to things, people's music, different artists, great song, but I know they put something on it to make it catchy. So if you're not a sensitive person like I am, and if you happen to be a highly sensitive person, we can pick up on that stuff. I was like, oh yeah, that beat is popping, but there's something that they invited into that song that's not quite right. So you've got to monitor what you hear, what you take in, and just be careful. It doesn't mean that you can't watch an action movie or watch the news or whatever. There's gonna be good news, there's gonna be bad news. We know in our society, especially in the US, they love giving us the bad news, right? But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be an informed person, be up with the current affairs or the current movies, but you have to monitor that stuff. And if you're a very sensitive person, maybe there's some things that you just can't watch, right? Turn those romantic stories off. You get looped into that too much. That stuff can really contaminate you and cause a problem in your soul and begin to take over. So watch what you see, watch what you hear. Number 3, unhealthy soul ties. I have a whole video dedicated to that. It's going to be looped into and linked to this video, so please check that one out. I'm not going to take a deep dive into what soul ties are, but I will say that when we become into a relationship with things, or even especially with people, we get bonds and covenants, and when we're bound to a person through a relationship, we can form soul ties, right? And when we form soul ties with people, what we're doing, we're going to allow that person to have a spiritual influence on us. That person's going to influence us in ways that a person or a thing we don't have soul ties with won't. So we have to be very careful with who we connect ourselves to, whether it's a friendship, whether it's who we marry, whether it's what organizations we join. We have to be very, very careful as to yes, there are organizational soul ties, right? So if you're in a fraternity, sorority, or some sort of society, or some sort of committee, be careful as to who you group yourself with, political party, whatever it is. Be careful of the people and what you group yourself with, or who you connect yourself with, because it will have an impact on you. And if it's a soul tie, they're going to have an impact on your inner life. So you want to make sure that you connect yourself to healthy people, healthy groups, healthy individuals. You have healthy relationships, because that will have an impact on your soul. And if the person isn't right, if the person is unhealthy themselves and the person themselves are polluted, they can pollute your soul. And it can have a very negative impact on you emotionally, psychologically. It could make you people wonder why they're uncertain and they're not able to make decisions, and it's like, what have you attached yourself to that's made you uncertain and made you insecure and not confident in your decision making? So it can even have an impact on your decision making, who you connect yourself to. And if your soul is polluted, I'm gonna bring this up, if your soul is polluted, you're gonna have a hard time making decisions and being clear. You're gonna be foggy on the inside when you're polluted, and when you're contaminated with sin and what you're taking in and who you're connecting yourself to. So that's another thing that can pollute your soul. Unhealthy soul ties. So connect yourself to healthy people, and you will see good results. But if you connect yourself to unhealthy people, you're gonna suffer. Number 4. The fourth thing that will pollute your soul is your environment and people. I brought up people earlier, but that's not necessarily people you have a soul tie with, but just being around certain people. You have negative people, people who are just, up to no good, bad motives, bad energy. That can have an impact on your inner life and on your soul if you're around such individuals on a continual basis. Your environment, what type of environment are you in? Are you in a negative environment? Negative people? What are the people doing in that environment? Is it a positive environment? If not, then if it's negative, if your environment is negative, the people around you in that environment is negative, it's going to have a negative impact, and it will contaminate your soul. The longer you're in that negative environment, regardless of what it is, it could be, people not doing, breaking the law, not doing things that they're supposed to be doing, or just people, where it's an environment where people are negative and talking about others and what have you, that will have a very, very negative impact on your soul, right? Even it could be a place where you need to be. It could be your work environment. If your work environment is not nice, if it's toxic, it's not a good place to stay in. I would suggest look for a new job, new position, because eventually it will have a negative impact on you, and it will contaminate you on the inside and will pollute your soul. So negative environments and negative people, that's another thing. 5th thing that will pollute your soul, negativity. That's right. So whether the negativity is coming from the outside of you, or inside, You've got to monitor your thoughts. If you're finding that, what you're thinking and what you're feeling is continually negative, get some help, right? You could be dealing with, a mental issue, which is nothing to be ashamed about. Definitely get help for it. But if it's something you feel that's chronic and it's overtaking your life and you're not able to function, that is the time to get help. But if you just feel yourself, being more negative than you usually are, and exposing yourself to too much negativity, whether it be negative people, negative things that you're seeing and watching, negative things that you're reading, and whatever it is that you're exposing yourself to, just know that negativity, if you're exposed to it for a prolonged period of time, will have a very terrible impact on your soul and will pollute you, and it will just create like this cloud and this buildup within where it will cause a disconnect within you. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So negativity is the fifth thing. The sixth thing is an unhealthy lifestyle. People do not, and I talk about health a lot on this channel, taking care of yourself, eating well, exercising. Listen, the body, if we trash our bodies and we don't take care of ourselves, it's going to have an impact on our soul. It's going to have an impact on our brain. That's where the soul is, right? It's going to have an impact on how we feel. It can bring on things like depression and low self-esteem. If we're not taking care of our bodies, right? It can bring on, disease and physical illness, which can have an impact on our soul. So that's another thing that will pollute you. What you put in your body will can not only pollute you physically and bring harm to you physically, it can do a number on your soul as well. It can have a psychological impact. I can't even tell you, and I've said this in my other videos through other testimonies, but I can't even tell you the great impact that eating better has done for my life, and how it's helped my depression and helped me psychologically, putting the right foods and making sure I get the right nutrients in my diet. It's definitely helped with serotonin levels. It's definitely helped depression and how I feel, and actually how I feel about myself and my self-esteem. So nutrition, what you put in your body. So if you're trashing your body with tons of sugar, fats, and sodas, cakes, and cookies, it's going to have a negative impact on you on the inside, and it's going to create things like brain fog, have trouble concentrating, low self-esteem, low self-image. It could bring about mental health issues, anxiety. If you're prone to that, eating a terrible diet will not help it. Smoking, drinking, substance abuse, all of these things will have an impact on your soul. And when it comes to substance abuse, the drinking, the smoking, getting high, what have you, not only will it cause brain damage, especially for a long period of time if you engage in that, and that'll have a negative impact on your soul, brain damage. It also these things, being high or intoxicated and out of control, actually opens, and I may present this in a different video, but it opens up portals and provides openings for evil spirits. So when we're out of it, something else will come. we're opening up spiritual doors when we get high and when we get drunk. So that's another topic for another video, but that's another way that opening up these doors and these portals for evil spirits through trashing the body, through substance abuse, or trashing the body through what we eat. Food addictions is a real thing. I used to be addicted to sugar, and I kicked that habit. So, if I could do it, you could do it, but it does have an impact on how you feel. It does have an impact on your soul. And, when I was eating that way in my lifestyle, my unhealthy lifestyle, it just made me a less motivated person. But when I changed to a healthy lifestyle, I'm more motivated to do the things I need to do in life. And it's just been a blessing for me. So if you haven't been treating your body well, please start doing it, because it makes all the difference. So unhealthy lifestyle is one way to pollute your soul. And that's number 6. Number 7, finally, Unregulated thoughts, and it goes back to the negativity, but you've got to monitor what you're thinking. It's important that we think about what we're thinking, right? Especially when we find ourselves in a mood, like a mood that's negative, in a mood that's unhealthy. And you just got to know, I just want to give you a little bit of grace with the thoughts and the thinking. If you get a thought that comes into your mind that's just off, that's just really, really wrong, that's really foul and really just not like yourself, it didn't come from you. It could have come from a spiritual source. And even if it came to you, it doesn't mean that you have to own it. You don't have to own that, especially if the thought is off. You don't have to own that off thought. Now, I just want to give you the liberty and knowing that if the thought is immoral, if the thought is evil, if the thought is self-destructive, you don't have to own that thought, right? So that's why it's important for us to think about what we're thinking and to begin to regulate our thoughts. When we don't regulate our thoughts and we think, oh, I got this foul thought, I must be the most horrible person on earth. No, that thought could have come from other sources. Or, maybe if you're thinking about something evil, somebody's done something to you, you may have an evil thought behind it. All right, you may have thought about doing something to that person, but that doesn't make you the worst person on earth. You don't have to own that. You can say, okay, God, forgive me, I shouldn't have been thinking about it. I ain't gonna think about that no more. That was wrong. Let's move on in life, right? So, but when you don't regulate your thoughts, and your thoughts are unregulated, it can really, really contaminate and pollute your soul. And that's the 7 things. So those are the 7 things that I wanted to talk about in this video that can pollute your soul. Sin, what you see, what you hear, unhealthy soul ties, environments and people, negativity, unhealthy lifestyle, and unregulated thoughts. That's what I wanted to share with you in this video of the things that can pollute the soul. And the final thoughts on this is we've got to consider our inner life as we live this life. And not just think about the physical and what we look like and our appearances. And we got to think about what we're doing for ourselves spiritually. We got to think about self-care and soul care. We've got to know that our emotions matter and that they're important. We've got to know that our thoughts matter. Thoughts create things. Everything that you have in your life and that you've achieved, it started as a thought. Right? All of your achievements. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to, things that you wanted to do. I'm going to get married. I'm going to have kids. The things, your goals, your dreams. I'm going to start that business. I'm going to write that thing. I'm going to write that song. I'm going to make this painting. Whatever it is that you do in the world that's awesome, I'm going to get that job, right? It all started, I'm going to get that house. It all started as a thought, right? So we have to be cognizant of what we're thinking. Know that our thoughts are precious, our emotions are precious, and it matters, right? Know that we've got to continue to work on our character and become better people and become healthy on the inside so we can be better in relationships. So that's what this is all about. But if we don't think about these things and we don't think about our inner lives and we don't think about our soul as being something that we should take care of and that we should maintain, we are going to be miserable. We're going to have this buildup and this, because what happens is when the soul is polluted, it becomes toxic and we become dangerous to ourselves. We become dangerous to others, and we're not able to think clearly, make good decisions. We're not able to be healthy in relationships, right? We're not able to see things clearly. Our vision is clouded and we have a hard time staying on track with commitments, and we will have a hard time understanding and knowing our purpose and staying on track with our purpose, right? We have a hard time staying in alignment with our moral code and ethical codes, and making sure we're not breaking divine laws and really sinning against God, and really doing things that can be destructive to ourselves and to others. So it's very important that we monitor these things in life, and that we take into consideration our inner lives, and don't allow ourselves to get polluted, because the soul matters. So it matters what you look at, and your spirit matters, and we have to protect our spirit and that part of us that connects to God by protecting our soul, because the soul is the barrier, right? So when we're healthy on the inside, everything will become balanced on the outside. So that's what I wanted to share with you in this video. Those are the 7 things that will pollute your soul. Have a healthy soul. Stay on that right track. Stay on the right path. And I will see you in the next video. Take care and God bless.